I just thought, like, I really want something that really has fruit in it and doesn't have the sweeteners in it. It becomes this word where you actually think like, oh, diet is good. I became the youngest vice president inside of AOL and like really proud about that, but it was actually really.
Let's start there, because that's actually one of the questions I had was, you had mentioned like, okay, it is a crazy idea. It was kind of crazy, which is what made it kind of awesome. And then having so much direct negation over the idea. How did you process that? Like, what was your internal either pep talk, thought process, questions that you gave to yourself?
So I kept running into people who hadn't thought about it. And then as I talked to them about it, they're like looking at their own life, and I could see them processing it. So, you know, they were at the time potential customers of this product, and I saw that they were giving up diet soda or flavored waters that all had sweeteners in it. So when we launched this product, I mean, everything had a sweetener in it outside of carbonated waters that were out there that had some flavor in it. Most of those products had sodium. Today they have, you know, less and less of that as well. But I also really wanted a product that had real fruit, and I was shocked that, you know, when I called up the large soda companies as talked to their customer service agents, and I said, so what are you guys flavoring these things with? Like, are you using real fruit? And the message back was like, oh, we don't really know. And I'm like, okay, but, and so, you know, there's been lots written about this now, but a lot of these flavors that are out there are not using real fruit, and they're using things like bone marrow or, disgusting, but beaver anus glands is another thing that is used. Yeah, and so, you know.
Rome's laughing.
Really
I found you back there.
Yeah.
I was like, why does beaver anus glands make me think of my Costa Rican friends? That's it, you know.
So it's, it's just, I just thought to myself, like, even if you're not vegan, like, it's just like nasty. Like, I just thought, like, you know, if you want a dragon fruit drink, and like, you have no idea what these products have. And so I just thought, like, I really want something that is just, you know, like, really has fruit in it and doesn't have the sweeteners in it. And, and I think, like, the other piece of it that I really saw too was that it didn't, like, my issue was diet soda. But then I started to talk to people about how they had gone on low fat, or they had, they had been.
Well, yeah, heart disease skyrocketed during the low fat, trend, right? Yeah.
And then these things that were calling themselves vitamin, it was like this thing goes off in your brain that, you know, says, okay, that's healthier and better for you. And, you know, I started my own process too. Was, you know, I remember, I don't know, probably in like I don't even know what grade, second grade or whatever, where you're like dissecting like vocabulary words, right? Diet is it's like a negative word, right?
Totally.
And then somewhere along the way, it becomes this word where you actually think like, oh, diet is good. Like, I'm proud to be walking around with diet, and it's kind of messed up, right?
Right.
And yet there's no scientific proof that these, you know, words actually make us healthier. And so anyway, that was really I would say that it was really the potential customers and the change and getting people to think. Now, you know, I say it's customers. I mean, it's people, and as you know, I mentioned before. I mean, now we have large companies who are calling us and, you know, asking us to basically sit in a room with their insurance people and as well as their food service people, which is often shocking to me that they don't actually talk to each other. So when people are actually putting, you know, food and beverages, like, you would think that they'd, you know, actually speak to each other because they both have the same initiatives with the company. And, you know, CEOs are calling me and bringing me into these companies to say, like, can I actually change healthcare costs in my company by actually cutting back on sugar and sweeteners in the company? And the answer is yes. And many companies are doing it. I mean, Google was probably the first one, but I think, like, that to me is, you know, can we actually help disrupt and change and, you know, do anyway.
So I had, okay, let me, this is kind of a weird question, but I'll ask it and hopefully it articulates well. Is so going from a very, I'm going to say corporate, I don't know if that's the right term, but like, a very corporate environment to now shifting into like, this is going to be your vision and you're going to go, you're becoming a founder, an entrepreneur, and then being really successful at it. And you weren't really following like, oh, this is now the fastest growing market of organic like water, right? I'm just making that up. Did you have to mentally renegotiate with yourself of like what was possible for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I never...
Why you, and then like the whole like, well, why not you? Did you have to go through that a little bit?
So I rose in AOL and, I give this talk to, many of my team members. I became the youngest vice president inside of AOL and was, was like really proud about that, but it was actually really complicated because, here I'm, a lot of my, like the people that I want to hang out with are not sort of at that level. So it was like I couldn't go out, for happy hour with them because I felt like they were always like, oh, your boss is a jerk or, whatever. Like it was a very complicated thing. So I realized when I left AOL that while I was happy about what I had grown to be, I didn't actually aspire necessarily to do that again. And go inside and do it inside of another company. I mean, that for me was interesting. And instead, what I really, really, honed in on was what did I love doing? And I really loved being at the, I'm a builder. I mean, I know that about myself, that I'm curious. I've always been curious. Never.
I wrote that down as your superpower, by the way.
So I think that's right. And it's, again, like there were a million reasons why I should have gotten here in the first place. My dad actually was the founder of a product called Healthy Choice, which is, he started it at Armour Food Company, and they ended up selling it to ConAgra. I mean, it's still one of the largest products at ConAgra, but it was, I never thought, and he never thought that I was actually going to go and start, a food company. But somewhere along the way, as a kid where I had every type of sweetener, saccharin and aspartame and all kinds of things, like I can, go back and track exactly what those products were. So I was always like super curious about things, but I didn't sit there and say, and I often tell this to entrepreneurs, like I didn't sit here and say, oh gosh, vitamin water sold for $4.2 billion and, like we're gonna be next. Like that's never been my purpose and my reason for doing this. I've wanted to actually service the customer.
Love it.
And it's not to say that, as we were talking about earlier, I mean, we have had many conversations with the large soda and food companies, and my team is no longer confused when like soda executives walk into our office on Union Street in San Francisco and see me having a conversation with them. And I'm open to talking to anybody, but I've never really believed that these large companies actually want to do what I want to do, which
truly
is
change
health.
and keep it that way.
And it's hard because they've got the mothership and they're public companies.
It's moving.
They don't want to change. I mean, and it's not to say that there aren't certain people inside there that want to change. It's just that it's just way too hard to change that ship.
Very cool. All right, Vinny, and then we have microphones. Cool. Yeah.
Hey, Kara, good to see you again. Met you at War Room. You're awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Thanks.
I'm a fellow builder, and I'm just sitting here amazed hearing your story again about, I guess I want to understand some more about the energy needed to fight through some of these big ones. Like first, your husband like not being your biggest cheerleader at the launch, the investors when you've got 33,000 bottles sitting in the warehouse. This idea when you want to go direct to and get the data in Amazon, like the massive shift of a builder. Because like as a builder, I just excited about building something. I'm just assume it's going to work. I'll jump over the wall, and then when I take the hit, how do you come back? Where is that? Like I just always want to be around people. I want to know how that's working.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit this morning, but it's, I think having people around you that actually believe in you, and that includes, the financial partners. I mean, I've never partnered with people who, my gut, my spidey sense, whatever you want to say, it was that they were going to ultimately block me. Not to say that I haven't, encouraged conversation, and and that I always want to have people who think a little bit differently in the room. I'm really good at hiring those kind of people that will challenge me and challenge my team. But I think it's, for me, I think it was really. I think that that's the big thing, is that people who recognize that, you've got a purpose and that you've got a cause and are kind of let you go. I mean, I've heard nightmare stories. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, where, it really does make a difference who is funding your company and how much they, let you do. I mean, I got some great advice from the vitamin water founders early on that, they only actually owned 12% of the company when all was said and done, but they always controlled the board. And so, I run into founders today who say, and entrepreneurs, CEOs who say, how do you do that? Like, how do you control the board? And, that you don't take money from people that are gonna not allow you to do that and not allow you to carry on your vision. So
it's great advice right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's important, and I should just mention, I mean, we have over 100 investors in the company. We have, celebrity ones like John Legend that are out there, but then we have, a lot of tech people who just like drink our product. And so people are like, how do you get John Legend to like be on stage and have Hint right next to him? I'm like, he just likes it. Right, and he also, after he sings, not before, but he likes blackberry fizz with vodka, and has cocktails with it too. And so it's having people that are really passionate about your brand and and sort of what you're doing and believing in you, and I think that that's the important thing.
Awesome, Gilo.
What year did this start? I think we missed that, or maybe I missed that. And time frame.
So we started in 2005. I mean, the company was incorporated end of 2004, started in 2005. Obviously 2008, 2009, were really bad. Another reason to have investors or no investors, as you're growing, because I think the world was collapsing in 2009. There were a lot of beverage companies that were, doing crazy deals that we wouldn't do. So, Whole Foods came to us. I've said this to Whole Foods many times, where, they said, if you want to be in Whole Foods in 2009, then you need to give us product. And I thought, and we're not going to buy product because we want to keep the doors open. And I'm like, huh? Like, that's a really bad deal. Like, how am I going to stay in business if I do that? And so we actually, cut off distribution from Whole Foods because we wouldn't do it. And a lot of beverage companies called me and said, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, I'm not giving my product away to Whole Foods. Like,
and that was 2009?
2009.
So if you actually think about that, since we're all internet marketers, we're like, well, why won't you just sell directly on Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Well, that really wasn't, it was just starting. Like, Facebook was not as easy as it is nowadays. So that was like cutting off your potential lifeblood to distribution.
100%.
Yeah.
And there were, I know, Jesse and was involved in Zico, and there were a lot of companies at that point who said, like, we don't have a choice. I mean, today we're the largest non-alcoholic beverage company that doesn't have a investment or distribution from Coke, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper Snapple. And like I said, it's not that we don't have conversations with those people. It's, on a daily basis, I get an email from somebody who's a beverage company or who has some sort of investment in one of these beverage companies who says, I don't know how you guys did it. Like, wow. I mean, honestly, like, it's crazy how you've been able to piece this thing together. And now, we can distribute throughout the country, without actually having, those people. So those partnerships.
Mandy.
Hi, my name's Mandy, and I'm actually a keto coach. So I love what you're doing, your mission and everything like that. And you're the only water alternative that I recommend to all my people.
Yay!
I lead with education, and I love that you started that with that vision in mind. So how do you encourage your customers to go ahead and educate themselves and other people to further your mission?
So we don't make any health claims at all. It's nice having, if I didn't mention this before, so my husband joined us. I thought he was only going to be there 6 months, and 13 years later, he's still there. He sits right next to me. He's our chief operating officer, and he's a lawyer, right? Which is really nice to have a lawyer on staff. And he said he's always the one who, has the North Star saying, like, don't make any health claims. Like, it's like, that's the key, that's what the lawyers say, right? And so what's great, what we've seen over time is that this customer is actually seeing change in just drinking Hint, right? And we get questions, not every day, but every few days, like, what do you guys put in there? Like, why don't I have type 2 diabetes anymore? Why am I losing weight? And we're like, our response is always like, it's not about Hint, it's about the other stuff, right? And so I think that the education is really getting people, it's always been to realize that what you're putting into your body, what you're putting on your body, what you're doing every single day is all part of your lifestyle that can adjust if you focus on it and you educate yourself on it. And people will ask us, like, what diet should I do? Whole30? Should I do keto? Like, we're like, I don't know. Like, maybe you should try them all and see what works for you. I mean, we're probably the only drink that is like, diet agnostic, and we're like, look, you need to figure out what works for you, and you need to start paying attention. I mean, it's so funny when you think about it. We pay attention to so many other things in our life. We want to understand, like, what kind of gasoline we're putting in our cars, what kind of, air we're putting in our tire, or what kind of, whatever it is, what kind of paint we're putting on our walls, and we don't pay attention to what we're doing, like, which is really crazy. Right? And so that's what we preach really to, everybody. Do what works for you and keep testing it and keep trying it and keep, leveling up, right? Keep trying to do better, and, and that's the big thing. Awesome. So, yeah.
Awesome. It is 12:20. We are going to break for lunch. We're going to be back in here for anyone who wants to learn about Platinum or Platinum members to be in here. That'd be great. And then we're starting at 1:30 with Ian Stanley. And Ian, I got you a little more time than you have on the calendar. Is he in here, or is he practicing his humor? He said he's gonna be really funny, guys. I'm just letting you know. He did. He's like, I'm gonna be really funny. He's like, is it okay if I'm really funny? I'm like, I think everyone needs a little laughter after lunch, so it's perfect. But let's give it up for Kara.
Thanks,
Kara Goldin.
Thank you. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.